Hello, welcome back to another episode of TNF, Talking Northants Football. My name is Joseph McCormack, back alongside Ady Man. Ady, how are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you.
Good to hear. And joining us as our second guest on the pod, local referee and Deputy CEO, am I right in saying, of the Northants FA, Luke Scott. How are you, Luke?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. I think one of the good reasons for having you on as well, and we spoke about this off camera, is you've got quite a lot of podcasting experience yourself. Do you want to give us a bit of a plug for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, myself and another local referee, Wayne Chalmers, I'm sure most people know in Northants football, we have a weekly podcast during the season called For Ref's Sake, where we just kind of talk about refereeing, trying to normalise it a little bit, humanise it, and just talk about some of the big talking points from the Premier League that weekend.
Yeah, brilliant. Definitely head over and give that a listen after you've watched this, of course. But Luke, just give us a bit of background of your refereeing career to start, how long you've been in the profession, but also what inspired you to become a referee as well.
I took the kind of normal route that a lot of referees take now. So I started when I was 14, which is young, obviously, but it's a route we see a lot of the guys taking now. So I started at 14 back in Aylesbury, where I'm originally from, and I was playing and refereeing for a season. I did used to play unbelievably, AD.
All right.
Yeah. So I did that for a season, but then kind of just wanted to focus on refereeing, probably because I realised I wasn't very good at playing. I'll get there before you get there, AD.
No, I would not. I would never say that. Never say that.
So yeah, then I focused on my refereeing, started doing the Hellenic League on the line, which is kind of equivalent to UCL around here, and just worked my way up through the levels, got myself up to level 4. So refereeing the UCL Prem level back down in Aylesbury, did a number of seasons there, and then I kind of got into like the education side of it, so referee development, delivering referee courses for Bucks and things like that, and that was kind of the natural then progression into the role that I've got at Northants FA.
Is there a moment that you can pinpoint where you wanted to become a referee? Because you mentioned it there, we've all wanted to be professional footballers. Ady got to live out that dream, we didn't. But was there a moment during your young playing career where you thought, actually, I'd rather go and do this instead?
No, to be honest, there wasn't. It was probably the typical route in that more for money, and that's, you know, that's what we see a lot of the kids now getting into it, because it does pay better than a paper round, doesn't it? So you know, from that perspective, at the age of 14, picking up 25, 30 quid a game rather than doing a paper round, it was a no-brainer. So, and I don't have an issue with people getting into it for those reasons. I think the onus is then on us as a refereeing community, but also as a Northants Football Association, for us to then kind of develop that interest into something a bit more, and I think that's kind of where we see the referee development work come in.
How do you feel you've evolved as a referee over time, particularly when it comes to dealing with people that don't particularly agree with your decisions?
I've changed massively. I have changed massively, and I think part of that's life experience. You know, as you get older, as you get used to talking to people, dealing with different types of people, that approach is certainly one that I take now. But also the way that you view the game, the way that you view challenges, your foul tolerance, all of that's changed over time as well. I used to be a referee that gave quite a lot. Now I'm a referee that actually I prefer the approach of not giving.
Don't think you can ever win though, can you?
No, I think you're right. I think
that's the difficult. That is, I think. I mean, myself years ago, I was terrible towards referees. Pushed it as much as you could. I see a different thing now as you get a bit older and a bit wiser. Like, you ref the game here pre-season, didn't you? Yeah. And I spoke to you after, and some of the spectators, what's the right word to use? Ideas of what's wrong and what's not, and it's like I stood there listening to some of it. Terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, isn't it? I think, yeah, like I say, I was a referee that used to give a lot, because I thought that was the best way to referee a game of football. But actually, now the approach of trying not to give too much, trying to let play flow as much as you can, trying to let the players do what the players need to do. Generally, if the ball's in play, you're less likely to get stick.
Is there a different pressure when an assessor's watching? Because sometimes, as a chairman at our level, you've heard an assessor is here, and then the pressure may sometimes become too much.
Look, I've said many times, and I might get stick for saying this from various different people. But I think naturally you will referee differently when there's an assessor in the stand,
Right.
or an observer, as we call them now. And the psychology behind that's quite simple. That at the level, for example, the level I referee at, level 3, I refereed probably 35, 36 games last season. I only got observed on 6 of those games. So then if you're looking at the importance of that one game where I am being observed, my promotion decision is being made by 6 games out of 36.
Yeah, it's very limited, isn't it?
Do you know
Quite
what I mean?
small sample size.
Yeah, it's not very...
It's only natural that you're gonna referee, or you're certainly gonna feel the pressure. But I think any referee that tells you they don't referee differently when they're being observed, I don't believe them.
Yeah, no.
You touched on letting the game flow, and we always hear it from the stands, don't we? People saying, "Oh, I like this referee; they're letting the game flow," which is obviously very important. But how do you balance managing the flow of a game, but also like enforcing the rules when necessary?
It's a good point. I mean, one of the biggest complaints we get is around consistency. We people tell us that they want consistency from their referees. Now, what does consistency mean? What does consistency mean to you from a refereeing perspective?
Difficult one to answer, really, because you'll give... Somebody years ago told me something that as a player, and I think the guy's name was Paul Ryan, who refed locally for years in Northampton. Yeah. And I had a bit of a disagreement with him once, and then I met him because I was with his brother sitting in a pub. Right. And funnily enough, he come through the door. I ended up sitting with him, and his words to me were, "Thing is, Aid, when you're looking at it from where you are, where I'm looking at it from, it looks completely and utterly different, the two scenarios. So where I think I've been fouled, and where you've seen it, you don't think I have been fouled. So you let the game go. Yeah. That's where the consistency part may be difficult."
Yeah, potentially. I mean, but also if you look at it, so if I said to you, if I offered you consistency in decision making throughout a whole season, would you think that's achievable?
Most likely not.
No. Absolutely
that's not achievable. Whereas if I offered you consistency in decision making throughout a 90-minute period, a 90-minute game of football, is that achievable?
Yes. To a degree.
Possibly to a degree.
So it is achievable, but it's achievable probably to the detriment of my match control, right? So if we look at a game of football in isolation, and if we talk about, I don't know, let's talk about cup final, the end of the season, that type of period. Now the game starts off one way, the temperature of the game is quite comfortable. One team scores a goal, then what happens? From a tactical point of view, everything changes, doesn't it? One team's
in control, one team isn't, one team goes chasing, one team doesn't.
So the two approaches of both of those teams are suddenly going to change. So why is it unreasonable to suggest that the referee shouldn't change their approach as well? If the 22 people in front of you are changing their approach, it might only be right that I need to change my approach to suit their approach. And it might be that the temperature of the game starts to rise because, again, take this time of season, FA Cup, extra prelim, first round qualifying, all of these types of games, you have a step 5 side playing a step 3 side, and the step 5 side goes 1-0 up. Temperature of the game goes up massively because the step 3 side have got the hump, the step 5 side are excited because they're thinking they're going to get through to the next round of the FA Cup. That's going to change the way that you need to referee that game of football massively, and it's just one instance that's caused it. So even consistency throughout a 90-minute period is very difficult because managers aren't consistent in their approach throughout that 90 minutes because that's the whole point of being a manager. You have to react to certain situations throughout a game, and refereeing is no different. Yeah.
Just on the temperature of a game then, I wanted to ask you specifically about mass confrontation, how you deal with that, because certainly in the few years when I was refereeing, that was the thing I found most difficult. How do you deal with those situations?
Stay calm, firstly. Make sure... I mean, there's all sorts of different tactics that we deploy, particularly as a team of 3, in terms of... As the referee, you'd kind of expect your priority to be getting the person that started it and the person that retaliated. That's kind of your priority as the referee, because that's kind of everyone's minimum expectation. Everyone's minimum expectation is you are going to deal with the person that started it and the person that's retaliated to that situation. Then you've got the more tricky situation, and typically it's a goalkeeper who likes to run in from 50 yards, get involved and then run back. And that's where you kind of you're hoping that your assistant's going to help you out. He's going to spot that person running in 50 yards, throwing a punch and then running.
You need a bit of VAR for that, don't you?
You need a bit of help on those ones, yeah. So it's those kind of things, bit of teamwork. But ultimately, a lot of mass confrontations, just hot air, aren't they? Just hot air. So sometimes it is just a case of stepping back, watching, and it might just be a couple of yellow cards again to the starter and the retaliator, and hoping that calms it down, because a lot of the time there's not too much substance to them. It's just people puffing their chests out trying to get a point.
Can you sometimes sense when a game's about to boil over? I'm sure that's something you would have felt, the more experienced you've become as a referee.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you begin to sense when that big challenge is coming in. You see a heavy touch and you think actually, and it's a little bit about knowing your players as well. When you've been refereeing at the level I've been refereeing at for the amount of time I've been refereeing at it, you get to know the personalities of the players, you get to know the personalities of the managers, and you can absolutely sense it, but you can also sense the slightly smaller instances that you think are going to happen as well, in terms of like I say, the big tackles that are potentially going to come in and things like that. You start to be able to read the game a little bit better with that experience. Talk us
through a referee's position on the pitch specifically, and how that sort of develops over the course of the game, both from open play and set pieces. I remember when I did it under your tutorship, there was that S that you go across the pitch out from open play, and then I guess from corners, free kicks, you take more of a set position outside the area. Yeah, positioning is a bit of a science, to be fair, and it's interesting because the advice that we're given, it's kind of changed very recently. So it used to be kind of about sweeping in behind play, and a bit of dynamic movement following in behind that kind of through ball, as it would be, just sweeping around, making sure you're close to play. It's kind of changed in the last few months, really, around trying to get in between the lines now. And if you're sad enough to sit and watch a game of football and watch the referee, particularly at Premier League, Football League level, you'll really see now that what they try and do is a lot more, a bit like that, what you'd expect of your centre midfielder. That you will see them scanning, you will see them trying to find the space, you'll see them trying to read the game a lot more. So it's actually switched. They now want the referees to try and get in between the lines, try and get ahead of play, try and read where it's going, to enable that kind of.
Do you guys do like the Premier League refs do? Do you have a get together with the people at this particular level?
Yes.
So you do like a training camp type thing, fitness?
Yeah, not to the same degree, of course.
Obviously not, no.
Yeah, so the FA have got a national manager for level 4 referees, which is UCL, and level 3 referees, which is the step above. And so yeah, it's obviously a huge number of people, but they do a number of, I think there's about 1,200 level 4s and about 320 level 3s in the country. So, but they do some regionalised meetings where they'll run through things like, recently we've obviously had the law changes, the 8-second thing for the goalkeeper. Yeah. All of that type of stuff's communicated, but expectations around, how they want us to deal with certain situations, what things they think we need to be focusing on, and that's based on feedback from managers at the relevant level as well, to say actually we don't think this was. The hot topic is always holding at corners, which I think we're probably going to see a bit of a clampdown on at the top level, which probably means that's going to filter down to what you see at our level as well, and those types of things. Well,
sometimes you see it on the TV and you think, how on earth is that? And it's not just once, is it? It's like 7 or 8 times in a game.
Mm. Oh yeah.
From either side.
But what's your views on that? How do you want that dealt with?
I suppose the beauty of it would be that the fans would like it penalised if there is one. So it'd probably end up 5-6, 5-6, 7-6. But like you say, you're using that word. How do you be consistent? Mm. So you may see, and it's not a knock, but you may see a referee give it on the TV, and then 25 seconds later there is a corner at the opposite end, and you've looked at it and think, it's a similar sort of challenge, and it's not given.
Yeah, and as you say, it comes back to that consistency.
So how do
if you penalise every single shirt pull, you're giving God knows how many penalties a game.
You would be giving pens every corner.
And I think where the refereeing community, particularly at the top level, and it's not really their fault, it's probably more the media and things like that, but where they don't help themselves is to sort of the football public. A shirt pull's a shirt pull. But when we talk about the decision-making process of whether to penalise a shirt pull, particularly at something like a corner, the terminology they're using is sustained, impactful. Now, do we ever hear those words
Never
relayed in the media?
Not at all, no.
Actually, when you use the context of those words, was it sustained and was it impactful? So if it was an off-the-ball one at a corner and the player that's being pulled had no chance of winning the ball's going nowhere near them, unlikely to be penalised at the top level because it's not going to be impactful, because it's not stopped them from getting the ball, and it's not. So that impact just isn't.
So it's
there.
okay to pull, is what you're saying, but hopefully the ball don't come your way.
What I'm saying is, technically in the laws of the game, that's a foul. But like I say, the decision-making threshold that they would apply to that law in the Premier League is sustained and impactful. And I think when we're talking about consistency, you will probably see sustained and impactful consistently applied, just not communicated. So it looks like it's inconsistent because there's a shirt pull there that's not given, but a shirt pull there that is given.
That's obviously where a fan would look at it.
Yeah.
Because his team's just conceded from a corner, a penalty there, and the same's happened at this end.
But the context...
But as you've explained it now, the ball's nowhere near you, it's irrelevant.
And that context is really important to every decision. You know, I get frustrated when players or spectators try to compare different challenges when it's like comparing chalk with cheese. It's like you can't compare this yellow card that I've given here to this challenge here and want a yellow card.
That's because supporters and even ex-players now understand the difference of how you've explained it.
Yeah.
We just look at it as, well, he's pulled him there and he's pulled him there.
Yeah, and I can understand.
What's the difference? Yeah. Now you've sort of half explained exactly why the rules are what they are.
It's good to know as a commentator, that's for sure. Yeah. Just on the laws of the game, Luke, and I wanted to ask, particularly for people listening in going to watch their teams this season, are there any new laws or updated laws that we should be aware of going into this new season?
So the big one is going to be the 8-second thing. I don't know if you've seen it in action. I think
I saw you. Was it did you do the Diamonds Harbour friendly?
Chenix,
that was the Hillier Cup game. Yeah. I could actually hear you counting down from 5 on a goal kick.
Yeah, it was funny though because I think in the first half, I can't remember which team it was, but I think it must have been a Diamonds player. I think it was Jake Duffy actually said to me, he was like, are you doing the 8 seconds thing today? Because I just forgot about it. Like it's new to us as well. And that's why pre-season is really important to us. When it's big law changes like that, I've had a couple of pre-season games where the centre mid's just turned to me and gone, well, how long's he had it? Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Because we're so used to just kind of defaulting into, well, he'll release it when he's ready, because that was the approach that we used to take. But I think it's really positive. So yeah, the keeper's got 8 seconds to release the ball. When the referee gets to 5 in their head, they'll do a public countdown from 5 down to 0. If they get to 0, then a corner is given as the restart to penalise the goalkeeper for holding onto the ball for too long. I think that's really positive. I've had a couple of pre-season friendlies, and I think even I think you look at the Diamonds Chenix game in the Senior Cup. Again, that's the type of game where Chenix go 1-0 up. And then you would expect Chenix to try and slow the game down. And one of the easiest way last season for them to slow the game down is that keeper to do that. But this law just completely almost takes away that opportunity, because the moment the keeper has the ball in his hands and he's got it under control, I start to count. The moment I get to 5, the arm goes in the air. It's public for everyone to see. If he's silly enough to let me get to 0 and I have to give a corner, I'll give a corner. And then they're back on the defence. So I think that works really well. That's the biggest one. There's not too many other sort of big ones that you'll notice in terms of law changes, but it'll be interesting to see how that's applied at the top level.
I've been trying to forget about that Chenix game, so thanks for reminding me. Obviously, there's loads of rules and laws that you've got to remember when you're out there, and it must be so difficult in the heat at the moment to try and remember everything to its minute detail. But is there anything in particular that you feel needs clarifying or updating, just to remove that grey area? We always talk about handballs and offsides, don't we?
I mean, handball is... I mean, does anybody understand what handball is anymore?
No.
It's so difficult, particularly from a referee tutor point of view. Trying to teach new referees what handball is, you haven't got a chance. You haven't got a chance. I
think it's harder for you guys at coming down lower, because you see it on TV, and there's loads of different arguments about it's taken too long to make that decision, but they have the advantage of the VAR. You've got no VAR.
No.
It's your decision or your assistant's decision
to
help you
Yeah, and there's so many caveats. Did it deflect off the body? What was the distance? Natural position, making the body unnaturally bigger. All of these phrases, and you're absolutely right. In the moment, you've got to have a really solid decision-making process that you can just tick through all those criteria really quickly and make a decision under pressure, particularly for something like a penalty. You don't want to be guessing on a penalty. So handball is undoubtedly a challenge, and it's not necessarily a challenge, not just a challenge from a decision-making process, but it's a challenge because people, the wider footballing public, don't know what handball is anymore. So even if you get a decision absolutely spot on, chances are you're going to get somebody, and a lot of people probably moan about it, because nobody understands what should or shouldn't be.
You can't please everyone, can you?
No. So I think you're right. Handball certainly needs a bit of a tidy up. But look, I think if we go down, some people say let's just go down the hockey route of if it hits your foot, it's a foul, and that doesn't feel quite right. Bringing that into football, because we see you're not allowed to score with your hand now, whether it's deliberate or not, because the law changed a couple of seasons ago. People still moan about that. It's like, well, they didn't mean to handball it into the goal. Yeah, no, but that's the law. You can't score with your hand. So even applying that, people don't like it. It's like, sometimes we don't necessarily agree with all of the laws, but we are just applying the laws as we have to apply them.
We've got a little bit of time left, so I wanted to ask you about your role on the Northants FA as the Deputy CEO. Just tell us a bit about what that role entails and how that came about.
So I joined Northants FA about 10 years ago now as Referee Development Officer, and then I've done numerous different roles since then. But yeah, most recently Deputy CEO, so kind of help Kirsty, who's the CEO, with the overall running of the business from a financial point of view, governance point of view, and overseeing the operations team. So mostly overseeing like the discipline process, affiliation, player registration, that type of stuff. But most recently and most excitingly from my perspective, taken on the kind of the strategic lead around behaviour improvement, which I think is really important in football. Just trying to improve everybody's behaviour, not just we're not just focusing on players here. We've talked a lot about spectators in this episode, and I think that's really important as well. Just trying to improve the general culture of football is a challenge that I'm really enjoying.
And I bet that's something that you look at managers to help you improve as well, because obviously they're responsible for their teams and their behaviours can radiate through to their teams, and it's just about that big collective effort and trying to help everyone to improve in that respect.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we often talk about in refereeing, if you've got a difficult team to referee on the pitch, it generally stems from the technical area. It generally stems from a difficult bench.
I wouldn't know what you're saying.
But you're absolutely right. We've all got a collective responsibility to try and improve that, and that's kind of what our new tiered affiliation model is about. It's about putting the onus back onto the clubs to say, actually, you need to take ownership of the behaviour of your people. And if you do that, then you'll get rewarded with a reduced affiliation. If you don't, then you'll end up paying more. And I think that's kind of the collective responsibility that we're trying to get across.
Just one more thing then before we wrap up. What advice would you give to somebody who's considering becoming a referee, whether that's a young person who's trying to break into the game or somebody who's perhaps a little bit more experienced but wants to have a bit of an insight? Do
it. Just do it. I think the opportunities for referees now are huge.
If you can reach the top, massive.
And the FA are doing a lot of work around streamlining that process to get to the top now. They're almost kind of reversing the work that they did a number of years ago in terms of, I think when you must have done it, it would have been like level 9 all the way through to level 1.
Yeah, I think so.
They're streamlining that process. I think they worked out that the quickest way you could get to the Premier League was about 14, 15 years, which they worked out was too long. They wanted referees getting on the FIFA list that were under 35 when you've got a system that takes 15 years to even get to the top, and then you need another few years to get on FIFA after that. So they're streamlining it. There's opportunities for people that are good enough, that are dedicated, that are committed, that are fit enough, and demonstrating all of the capabilities of a referee. So the opportunities, the support locally, the work that Ollie does as referee development officer in the county is massive now in terms of referee development, but also support. And so you're certainly not alone. It's a great community to be a part of. It gives you loads of life skills and a little bit of pocket money on the side as well. And
while I think of it, for anybody from Northamptonshire who wants to go down that avenue, how can they go about doing that?
Through our website, so northantsfa.com. All of our referee courses are advertised on there, and you can book on through that.
And I actually did the course myself, going back, I think it was 2018, wasn't it? And you were the man that put me through it, so I would definitely recommend doing it. There's loads of great people involved, and yeah, definitely something worth considering. It's been great to have you with us, Luke. Thanks for all the insight that you've given us this evening. AD, thanks as always for joining us.
Thanks very much, Luke.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you all for listening in as well. It's been great to have you listening along, as it always is. Follow us on our X feed, formerly Twitter, of course, TNF_podcast_. We're also on Facebook at Talking Northants Football. And also, if you're interested in coming along and represent your club, get in touch on either of those two platforms. We'd be more than happy to have a chat and see if we can get you on for an episode. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you all again soon.